State Minister Professor Channa Jayasumana says that antigen rapid test kits from the World Health Organization are due to arrive in the country tomorrow. Over 3,000 COVID-19 cases reported from Colombo. Health officials warn of a possible cluster being formed inside prisons.
ලුතෙන් නිර්මාණය වෙන පොකුරු ටික කළමනාකරණය කර ගැනීමට අපි කොච්චර දක්ෂ වෙනවද කියන එක මත තමයි අපි රට ඉදිරියේදී වැහෙනවද නැත්නම් රට ලිහිල් කරලා ජන ජීවිතේ නව සාමාන්‍යකරණයක් තුල ගමන් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද මේ සියල්ල තීරණය වෙන්නේ.
Colombo Manning Market to open from Monday. Guidelines issued for home quarantine. Minister Bandula Gunawardena assures the benefit of the reduction in the prices of sugar will be given to the general public. US presidential election. Results further delayed.
Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. Starting off with a look at your top story. State Minister of Production, Supply and Regulation of Pharmaceuticals, Professor Channa Jayasumana, said that antigen rapid test kits from the World Health Organization will be brought down to Sri Lanka tomorrow.
ලෝක සෞඛ්‍ය සංවිධානයේ නිර්දේශ කරලා තියෙනවා.
The World Health Organization has recommended that rapid antigen tests can be used for this purpose. Only one company is manufacturing these test kits. Therefore, we took steps to intervene and obtain these test kits for the country. Accordingly, we expect the antigen test kits that are being donated by the World Health Organization to reach the country by Sunday evening.
ඉරිදා දිනේ රාත්‍රියේ ලංකාවට ළඟා වෙයි කියලා. එන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා මේක දිවයිනේ කපඩාවල තිබුණානේ මේක. පෞද්ගලික සමාගමක් මගින්
A private company had taken steps to import the antigen test kits to the country. We are giving priority to the donation that is being made by the World Health Organization. If there is a shortage of kits, we will import them through a private company. The company that had imported these test kits is a registered establishment to import medicine and medical equipment. We have invited other companies to be a part of this process. If a competition arises between companies, we will be able to purchase them at an even lower cost.
අඩු මිලකට අපිට ඒක ලබා ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා.
සාමාන්‍ය PCR පරීක්ෂණයේදී පොසිටිව් වෙච්ච රෝගියෙක් එම පරීක්ෂණයේදී නෙගටිව් වෙන සම්ප්‍රදාය වැඩි කියලා තියෙනවා.
PCR පරීක්ෂණයට
There is a lack of sensitivity in the new test when compared to the PCR test. However, since the results can be obtained quickly, I feel it is being widely used across the world.
ආවිච්චයට අරගන්නවා.
Meanwhile, the Health Ministry has decided to introduce the antigen test for community screening in the country from next week. However, experts in the field have expressed concern over the viability of these tests.
The Health Ministry's Deputy Director General of Public Health Services, Dr. Saman Ratnayaka, said that a validation process is being carried out on antigen test kits at present. He added that the test kits were a donation made by the World Health Organization. According to the Deputy Director General, antigen tests can be used to identify patients infected with COVID-19 within a short period of time. We have been informed that a validation process has been carried out on these rapid antigen test kits at the Kambudupitiya Hospital in Matara and the Velikanda Hospital in Polonnaruwa on COVID-19 patients. We have received inside information to the effect that this test has been carried out on individuals who tested positive for COVID-19 through PCR tests. Out of the 40 tests that were conducted, only 6 have produced accurate results. This is a serious situation. There is a 10% margin of error in producing the results of patients who have been infected from the virus from the 1st to the 7th day. However, they haven't studied the accuracy of the test on patients who have contracted the virus for more than 7 days. If this is introduced to the country, can we implement it only on individuals who had contracted the virus for 1 to 7 days? The manufacturer has clearly said that if a test displays a negative result, it must be confirmed using a PCR test. If there is a state minister handling pharmaceutical production, why have we been unable to import these antigen test kits through a government-to-government partnership? If that was done, it would have saved us more than 50% of the cost. When 35 companies had come forward, only 2 companies were allowed to import them. At the same time, we don't know whether these companies were given adequate time to register and receive approval to import these test kits, to procure them and to carry out validation tests. The process adopted by the National Medicine Regulatory Commission in choosing experts to carry out the validation tests remain unclear. We are not aware of the companies involved in this process as well. Against such a backdrop, it is dangerous to take the country forward in this manner.
මෙවැනි ව්‍යසන අවස්ථාවකදී රට ඉස්සරහට ගෙනියන එක අවදානම්
වෙච්ච සමස්ත ක්‍රියාවලිය.
Why did officials attempt to create a broad discussion on antigen test kits all of a sudden? If test kits have been imported to the country before the validation process, why was it done? How much was spent for that? The Government Medical Officers Association wishes to emphasize that it is important to reveal these details to the country. The process must be clean and transparent if the battle against the virus is to take place by winning the trust of the people.
ෂෝ සිද්ධ වෙන්න ඕනේ නිසා.
Rapid test kit.
The contract to bring down rapid test kits to Sri Lanka has been handed over to the company of a person who owns a television network and is a very close ally of the government. This company has placed large orders for these test kits. These rapid test kits are being purchased by Sri Lanka at an exorbitant price. They are trying to take advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic.
කරගෙන තියෙනවා.
In April this year, Newsfirst pointed out the need to increase the number of random PCR tests that are being carried out in the country. This was how health unions stressed the need for such measures at that time.
පරීක්ෂණ ක්‍රමවේදය
The testing mechanism needs to be freed from this reactive thinking. We must introduce a testing mechanism where we trace and test potential patients as much as possible. We are not carrying out random tests at present, but we believe that we must commence random testing as soon as possible.
මේ ක්‍රියාවලිය හැකි ඉක්මනින් ආරම්භ කළ යුතුයි කියලා.
The process of conducting random tests is being carried out extensively, 6 months after we stressed on the need for this mechanism.
Rapid testing ක්‍රමවේදය හරහා
It is through rapid testing we can get results out quickly. It is suitable. We must do it properly with transparency. We must help the public overcome this, not through programs that involve providing tenders to our friends and filling their pockets with millions of dollars. Rapid testing is suitable for the country. This means a validation test. A survey must be conducted to find out the suitability of a validation test to the country and how it should be conducted. However, before conducting the survey, hundreds of thousands of PCR tests have been brought here. What we are suggesting is to avoid that method and to follow the proper way of conducting qualitative rapid tests. Now there is a different formula in the country. The word is quarantine. However, people are being released without going through PCR tests. How can COVID-19 be prevented then? I would like to say one thing. Remember that a third wave could emerge when the government is trying to curb the second wave.
අවදානම තියෙනවා.
Sri Lanka's COVID-19 infection tally reached 13,227 today. This was after 257 individuals tested positive for the virus. Official figures show that 7,723 patients have recovered from the infection so far and have been discharged. According to the Health Ministry, 5,474 patients are currently under medical care. Meanwhile, authorities are making arrangements to lift the curfew that was imposed in certain parts of the country on Monday.
Sri Lanka reported its 30th death due to COVID-19 yesterday. The Department of Government Information said that the death was a 23-year-old resident of Colombo 15 who had been undergoing quarantine at the National Institute of Infectious Diseases in Angola. It cited that the cause of death as COVID-19 and complications of diabetes.
ඒ වගේම ඊයේ දවස් තුල තවත් එක් කොවිඩ් මරණයක් වාර්තා වුණා. සමස්ත මරණ සංඛ්‍යාව 30 දක්වා ඒ අතර වැඩි වෙනවා.
Meanwhile, the Health Ministry has updated the discharge criteria of COVID-19 patients.
රෝගීන් රෝහලෙන් නිදහස්.
We have updated the discharge criteria of patients. According to the updated criteria, an asymptomatic individual will be admitted to an immediate care center rather than hospitals, teeming with individuals who show symptoms. They will then be discharged after a period of 14 days. Previously, 2 PCR tests were carried out before discharging these individuals. However, taking global recommendations into account, we can observe that there is no chance that asymptomatic individuals can spread the disease after 14 days. Therefore, there is no need to conduct a PCR test after 14 days.
අවශ්‍යතාවය පැන නගින්නේ නැහැ.
The Government Medical Officers Association has expressed its views in this regard.
රෝගීන් විශාල ප්‍රමාණයක් අපි
We are discharging large numbers of patients after recovering. They are being discharged without undergoing PCR tests. Now it has been proven that there is no need to conduct a PCR test as they cannot transmit the virus to a person after this period. This would assist in retaining the stocks of PCR test kits. They can go home since there is a very low risk that their family members will contract it. However, it would be best if that person is isolated isolated upon returning home.
Meanwhile, the GMOA has also called for a set of guidelines concerning COVID-19 patients and their close contacts.
We are proposing to design national level guidelines over this matter. Even healthcare workers don't have a proper set of guidelines to be followed upon discharging a person after 14 days. Do not release the first generation contacts of COVID-19 patients to the community without conducting PCR tests. The recent incident was reported from Kegol. A group that was on the verge of being discharged had tested positive for the virus.
Meanwhile, the Health Ministry has said it has reintroduced the mechanism to deliver medicines of patients registered with clinics to their households.
An island-wide program is being implemented for patients registered with clinics at state hospitals to obtain their medicine by post. If any patient does not receive their medicine in this manner, a young individual or a person with no illnesses will be able to obtain them from state hospitals by producing their clinic card.
මාස 9ක් පුරාවටම අපිට තිබුණේ කොවිඩ් සම්බන්ධ මරණ 13යි.
During the last 9 months, only 17 COVID-19 deaths were reported, inclusive of 13 deaths from the farming communities. However, the number of patients and deaths have increased rapidly at this time. If we can limit the number of individuals who spread the infection, we will be able to bring the second wave of the disease under control. This will require dedication. We saw media reports showing that the source from which some patients had contracted the virus had not been identified. We need to take proactive measures and prevent individuals from carrying this virus to their homes against a backdrop in which the transmission of the virus is ranked at level 3 of the community transmission stage. Do not sin by infecting the elderly members of your household. Doctors say that a distance of at least 1 or 1.5 meters must be maintained as a precaution against the virus. If you wear a face mask at all times, you will be protected from COVID-19, even if your family members gets infected. At the same time, if you minimize contact with your family members, that too will help in curbing the transmission of the virus.
දෙයියන්ගලේට හැදුනා වගේ වෙන් වෙලා ගෙදර ජීවත් වෙනවා නම්
The intensive care unit, operation theatre and 2 wards at the Homagama Base Hospital were closed down following the detection of a COVID-19 patient. A patient had visited the hospital to obtain treatment for a wound. 10 employees at the hospital and the doctors have been subjected to quarantine.
A patient who had sustained lacerations due to a stabbing had visited the hospital to receive treatment. We carried out surgery on him and admitted him to the intensive care unit. A random PCR test carried out on him showed that he had tested positive for the virus. Therefore, we decided to close down the operation theatre and the intensive care unit temporarily.
A police inspector attached to the Ministerial Security Division who had been undergoing quarantine at a quarantine centre in Habaradua had tested positive for COVID-19. The Regional Health Director's Office in the Galle district said that the police inspector and 2 of his sons have contracted the virus. Our correspondent reported that the police inspector had been lodged at the police quarters in Colombo 7. Meanwhile, PCR tests were carried out this afternoon in the Gunasingapura area today. 7 inmates at the Old Bogambara prison have also tested positive for the virus. Prisons Commissioner General Chandaneka Naika said the inmates were detected upon conducting random PCR tests. PCR tests were carried out on 196 inmates at the Valikara prison, following which 23 among them had tested positive for the infection. They have been transferred to the Valikanda hospital. Meanwhile, wife of Zaharan Hashim, the mastermind behind the April 21st attacks, also tested positive for COVID-19. The director of Special COVID-19 Treatment Center in Valikanda Polonnaruwa said that she was brought to the hospital under high security.
It is the areas falling under the purview of the Colombo Municipal Council that are in danger. The figures show that the entire Colombo municipality limit is under threat due to the spread of COVID-19. Therefore, it is important to identify the areas under the Colombo Municipal Council that are under threat and then reveal that to the people. There is a possibility of the emergence of new clusters in several areas. A cluster of 106 patients was identified at a factory in Keravalapitia. Around 350 police officers have been infected, making another cluster. More than 200 of them belong to the Western Province. There is a threat regarding the spread of the virus. We are witnessing a possibility for the emergence of a new cluster within prisons as well. The rate at which these clusters are managed and brought under control will play a role in deciding whether the curfew should be lifted, whether the country will be placed under a lockdown, or whether all restrictions should be relaxed in the country. The deaths caused due to the COVID-19 pandemic should be also taken into consideration. We believe that the Health Ministry must immediately analyze the deaths that have been reported due to the virus. We will be able to avoid further deaths if only this is done.
ආලෝචන ක්‍රියාවලිය හරහා තමයි අපිට පුළුවන්කම ලැබෙන්නේ ඊළඟ මරණය වළක්වන්න.
The latest guidelines issued by the World Health Organization was also addressed during the media briefing.
අපිට ඉදිරිපත් වුණා ලෝක සෞඛ්‍ය සංවිධානයේ විසින්
We received a new set of regulations that have been prepared by the World Health Organization. They had been rolled out recently. The document clearly states that we as a member nation have a lot to think about regarding several areas. We have implemented several guidelines, but the document highlights what needs to be done and how should we conduct ourselves in the future. Therefore, the experts have to study these guidelines and prepare a document that is suitable for the country. The Government Medical Officers Association feels that our national guidelines must be updated. The epidemiology unit has said that there is no community transmission of the virus. We have responded to that as a country, and that is a good situation. Therefore, all experts believe that these matters must be taken into consideration and that it must be prepared to suit our country and then published in the coming days. We believe we can head in the right direction by following these measures.
Gammadda Nagitimu Sri Lanka.
Even amidst the COVID-19 pandemic on the island, we meet more than enough people who go to unimaginable lengths to make ends meet. We are ready to embark on a journey to find those people today as well. These people roam around in major cities in Colombo. Aren't they at risk of the virus? Even though quarantine curfew was imposed on the entirety of the western province, these people have not stepped away from their responsibilities. They carry this burden and face the challenges posed before them amidst the corona fears. If these people stop carrying out their daily affairs one day, how will it impact the distribution of essential goods and food items across the country? Aren't these people who pose challenges to the challenges they face exemplary figures for all of us?
Gammadda Nagitimu Sri Lanka.
The traders union at the Manning Market in Peta has announced that premises will be reopened for trading from Monday.
We wish to inform farmers in all parts of the country that they will be able to transport their produce to the Manning Market from the 9th of this month. At the same time, we request all customers to purchase vegetables from the market as well. Farmers harvest their produce a couple of days before they are brought to the market. Therefore, the farmers and traders will be affected and left helpless if the curfew is extended. If the curfew is imposed again, inform us about it immediately. As the traders union, we expect that the government will prepare a proper work plan to address this problem.
The Health Promotion Bureau has issued a set of guidelines to be followed by all individuals undergoing quarantine at their homes.
How long should a person undergo quarantine at one's residence?
A person should undergo quarantine for 14 days after coming into contact with a suspected or infected COVID-19 patient. However, the duration can be extended if a family member of that residence tests positive for COVID-19.
How should a person undergo quarantine at one's home?
Remain indoors at all times and do not encourage visitors.
What must be followed while undergoing quarantine at one's residence?
The house should receive adequate ventilation. Maintain a distance of 1 meter between family members. Wear a mask while coming into contact with a family member. Avoid touching your eyes, nose and mouth with unwashed hands. Monitor your body temperature by measuring it at least twice a day. In the event of not having sufficient facilities to wash one's hands, the usage of a disinfectant is recommended. If possible, check the body temperature of all family members at least twice a day. Refrain from coming into contact with the elderly and those with chronic diseases. A person who has been living with chronic diseases must take proper medication on time.
What must a person do when coughing or sneezing?
Always cover your mouth with a disposable tissue or the inside of your elbow while sneezing or coughing. Dispose used tissue securely into a garbage bin with a lid.
What should be done to maintain physical and mental health?
Include nutritious food items in your diet. Consume at least 2 to 2.5 liters of water daily and remain composed and relaxed at all times. Have a separate room allocated for you, if possible. Use a separate bathroom if possible. If you have to share a bathroom, make sure you wash the doorknobs, taps, and other surfaces with soap and water. Do not share plates, cups, glasses, towels, and bed sheets.
What is the importance of following these guidelines and remaining indoors?
Undergoing quarantine at one's residence will limit traveling outside. This will reduce the spread of the disease and protect your loved ones and the entire community from the COVID-19 pandemic.
Now on some sad news, Sri Lanka's COVID-19 death toll reached 34 after 4 people died of COVID-19 today. According to the Department of Government Information, 2 of the deceased were residents of Maligavatta. The others were residents from Vallampitiya and Ganemulla. We cross over to a short commercial break now. We will be back on the other side with more news.
Hello, Shaniwata Kohamadada.
Doctor Matada ටිකක් සනීප නෑ වගේ.
In partnership with the Ministry of Health and GMOA, you can video call a government doctor from the safety of your home. This is a free government service. Medical care and attention come straight to you. If required, the doctor will send you a prescription directly on the ODOC app. You can have your medicines delivered to your home. Avoid crowded hospitals and stop the spread of the virus. Video channel a doctor from right where you are. Download the ODOC app today.
Welcome back to the news. Minister of Trade Bandula Gunawardena said that a tax will be imposed on sugar if the benefits of the price reduction is not passed on to the general public.
On the 13th of October, the government had scrapped off the import duty on several essential items including dal, canned fish, big onion and sugar. Accordingly, a kilogram of sugar should be sold at 85 rupees. However, the president of the Sri Lanka Canteen Owners Association, Asela Sampath, has said that the benefit of the price reduction is not being passed on to the people.
Only Sathosa is selling sugar at 85 rupees. When the minister has said that 2 kilos of sugar are sufficient for a family monthly, the people will not go to Sathosa to purchase 250 grams of sugar. They will visit a nearby store instead. However, sugar is sold at 135 rupees at grocery stores. 90,000 metric tons of sugar had been imported to the country when the import duty of 50 rupees on sugar had been scrapped on the 1st of November. These companies had paid around 4.5 billion to clear their consignments. Therefore, those stocks of sugar are being sold at rates ranging between 120 and 125 rupees in the market. The company linked to the Shangri-La Hotel that had surfaced on political platforms recently had imported 28,000 metric tons of sugar. However, these stocks of sugar had been released without being subjected to the 50 rupee import duty. This would allow the company to earn a profit of 1.4 billion since the government has scrapped off the 50 rupee import duty. The attention of the public must be drawn towards how the companies that back the current government into power are making profits worth billions while causing inconveniences and affecting the people.
Against such a backdrop, the relief granted by the government has not been passed on to the people. Consumer groups allege that only one company is benefiting from the move.
The duty was lifted to pass on the benefit to the people. However, the traders are selling them at the old rates to the people and in the wholesale market as well. Sugar that can be sold at 70 rupees a kilo is being sold at 150 rupees. We cannot allow that to happen. The people have a right to purchase sugar at the correct rate. If the owner of a certain company is allowed to deprive the people of this right, we wish to question the existence of a government. A ceiling price must be imposed on sugar through a gazette notification. We wish to question the government whether they are trying to protect a few large-scale businessmen or the millions of consumers in the country. The Satasa chairman had also purchased sugar at high rates. We cannot allow that to happen in the country.
News First made inquiries about this matter from Trade Minister Bandula Gunawardena.
The benefit of the price reduction of sugar is not being passed on to the people. For the moment, we will allow Satasa stores to sell them at 85 rupees a kilo. However, we have told the Finance Minister that if the prices of sugar are not being reduced in the market, there is no point of scrapping off taxes. Since doctors and other entities are saying that sugar must not be sold at low rates to the people, we will request to impose the taxes again.
The government is losing revenue worth 5.9 billion rupees by importing 180,000 metric tons of sugar. Who are they trying to deceive? Who is facing the brunt of these losses? For whom are these stocks of sugar being imported? They are allowing their allies to have deep pockets.
The official results of the US election continues to be unclear, even though the United States election night was on the 3rd of this month. For a comprehensive update on the latest coming out of the US presidential race, we are now joined by Tarusha Kumara Singha. Tarusha, it's been days since the counting of ballots for the US election began. What is really happening there?
Thank you, Shalin, and very good evening to all our viewers watching Primetime News on TV1. In any presidential election, the thing that everyone is looking for, the answer that everyone looking for is who is obviously going to win at the end of the election. But according to the situation way back in the United States of America, however, unfortunately, everyone has to wait a little longer to seek their answers, the answers for their questions. What we see at the moment is a cloud of uncertainty revolving around the present legal challenges at hand in the election and also the recounting procedure. The only certain thing that we can be certain of is that all of us, even you and I, will have to be a little patient and will have to wait a little longer to see who is the next leader of the free world. Will it be Donald Trump, the incumbent president, a Republican? Will he be re-elected, or will his rival Joe Biden, a Democrat, will he be the oldest president in the United States of America? Let's take a look. As you can see, there is a map right here on this screen. Let me just move your attention towards this screen. As you can see in this particular screen, this is the map of the United States that consists each and every states in the United States of America, and electoral colleges is something that the candidates have to win in order to win the election. Unlike any other electoral system in the world, based on the electoral system in the United States of America, the winner, ultimately the winner, is determined by the total number of electoral colleges that they get, not the total number of votes they get across the country. Democratic presidential nominee at the moment is leading this race, however, and Donald Trump, the Republican nominee, is lagging behind. And I think, Shalin, you have a question to ask me at this moment.
Presidential race has come down to a few key battlegrounds. These are known as swing states in the United States. Now, according to the information that we have received from foreign sources, of course, what is the present situation of these key swing states in the US?
Shalan, as I mentioned earlier, uncertainty is something that is looming over everyone's heads at the moment. But however, complexity of this entire election process is fortunately reducing bit by bit. As you said, the race to the White House has now come down to these 5 key states, as you can see here: Arizona, North Carolina, Nevada, Georgia, and right here in the bottom, Pennsylvania. For Joe Biden, if he wins Pennsylvania or 2 states out of these 4 states, he will be able to step into the White House and he will be able to become the next president of the United States. Over here in the red camp, in the Republican camp, if Donald Trump wins Pennsylvania and 3 states out of these 4 states only, he will be able to re-elect himself as the president of the United States. Now, let me remind you once again, let me reiterate that if Biden wins Pennsylvania, he will be the president of the United States. And if Biden wins 2 states out of these 4 states, again, he will be the president of the United States. But it is a little tougher for Donald Trump, because to become the president once again in 2020 in the United States of America, he has to win Pennsylvania and 3 states from the 4 states that we just witnessed right there. Now, according to what I just told you, Pennsylvania is going to be a very key, a very vital state in this year's US polls. Some might say that it will be the X factor in this year's US polls. Now, let me draw your attention towards Pennsylvania. As you can see, the votes to be counted at the moment in Pennsylvania are absentee ballots. That is in the county of Philadelphia, and in the state that is the largest city in the state, and in Allegheny County. Something that we should bear in mind is that the areas that I just mentioned are the areas that were won by Hillary Clinton back in 2016 in the state of Pennsylvania. So which means a Democratic win is expected in the state of Pennsylvania. Moving your attention towards another significant, another important state in the US presidential election, that will be Georgia, right here. And as you can see, Joe Biden is leading at the moment in Georgia, which is considered as a Republican stronghold in the history of presidential elections in the United States of America. But as you can see, the margin is razor-thin. He's just ahead by 0.2%. And because of this particular display that you see right here, the state secretary in Georgia has decided to go for a recount in the state of Georgia.
Tarusha, now, last night we saw how several leading media institutions in the United States refuted the claim made by the incumbent president Donald Trump, saying that the election is rigged. And now we saw that certain media institutions cut the president short during his address and openly said that we are cutting this short because he is not saying the truth. What really happened there?
Yes, Shalan, that is true. Early on in the post-election stage, Trump first said that he has won the election and he will become the president. Later on, he said that this is a fraudulent election process, shedding some light on the statements he made earlier, saying that this particular US presidential election might be rigged. Last night, 2 leading media institutions in the United States of America cut their live coverage while Donald Trump was addressing the nation for the first time after the election night. Let's now take a look what actually happened.
I've already decisively won many critical states, including massive victories in Florida, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio.
Okay, here we are again in the unusual position of not only interrupting the President of the United States, but correcting the President of the United States. And Ari Melber, don't go far, given that you are our chief legal correspondent. There are no illegal votes that we know of. There has been no Trump victory that we know of.
Verification measures whatsoever.
Well, we're interrupting this because what the President of the United States is saying
in large part, is absolutely untrue. He began, and we're not going to allow it to keep going.
As we patiently await for the final result, Democratic nominee Joe Biden says that he has already won the election, depending on the lead that he has over Donald Trump in key battleground states in the United States of America.
We're going to win this race. Just look at what has happened since yesterday. 24 hours, we were behind in Georgia. Now we're ahead, and we're going to win that state. 24 hours ago, we were behind in Pennsylvania, and we are going to win Pennsylvania. And now we're ahead, but we're winning in Arizona, we're winning in Nevada. We've gotten over 74 million votes. Let me repeat that, 74 million votes. That's more than any presidential ticket has ever gotten in the history of the United States of America. And our vote total is still growing. We're beating Donald Trump by over 4 million votes. And that's a margin that's still growing as well. And we're going to be the first Democrat to win in Arizona in 24 years. We're going to be the first Democrat to win Georgia in 28 years. And we've rebuilt the blue wall in the middle of the country that crumbled just 4 years ago. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, the heartland of this nation.
As key media institutions reacted to the remarks made by President Donald Trump, how are the citizens of the United States of America reacting to this tight race to the White House?
A riot was declared in Portland, Oregon, as protesters demanded that every vote in the US presidential election to be counted. Hundreds were protesting President Donald Trump's court challenges to stop the vote count in battleground states. The county sheriff's office at about 7 p.m. declared a riot after protesters were seen smashing windows at business establishments. According to the sheriff's office, in the interest of public safety, the assistance of the state National Guard has been sought to help local law enforcement to manage the unrest.
This particular US election in 2020 has been regarded as a historic one owing to many various reasons. Especially this year's US polls has been named as the pandemic election by many in the world. The virus has impacted massively to this year's polls and will be a decisive factor based on the final result. Who will win? That will be a look back at how the virus was handled in the United States of America. What is the present COVID-19 situation in the United States of America amid the heat of the presidential polls?
According to the Johns Hopkins University, the total number of COVID-19 cases in the United States is heading towards 10 million as the total tally surpassed 9.7 million today. US COVID-19 case count exceeded 9.7 million with the national death toll reaching 236,025 as of today. Today marks the third consecutive day that had over 100,000 confirmed cases in the United States. Meanwhile, the White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows has tested positive for COVID-19, becoming the latest official in President Donald Trump's administration to become infected with the virus after a string of outbreaks in the West Wing. According to the White House, 2 other Trump staffers have also tested positive, lending further disquiet to an already tense post-election White House.
Just before I leave you, I would like to remind our viewers that this presidential election in 2020 will be of utmost importance to the entire world as well as we here in Sri Lanka, because we are selecting or electing the next superpower in the world. So that will have an impact on Sri Lanka as well. With that reminder, I would like to cross back to Charlene. Charlene, it's back to you.
Thank you very much, Tarusha. And of course, that's all the news we've got for you from the News First News Desk today. Do stay tuned to our news bulletins and follow us on our social media platforms and on our award-winning website www.newsfirst.lk. I'm Charlene Benedict for the News First team, along with our sign language interpreter for tonight, Brian De Cruz. Take care, stay safe, and God bless.